So, do you know that sometimes when you ever you go to like a Broadway musical or a play, and you're all excited because you probably spent a lot of money to get these seats, and you get there and you sit down, you're reading the program, and then right before the show starts, there's an announcement that comes on and says, "Today's lead starring role of Jean Valjean will be played by his understudy, Johnny Smith." And you're like, "Aww. Hi, I'm the youth minister today." Pastor Tom was officiating his niece's wedding this weekend, and we didn't think he was going to be back, but he is. But he has taken a rest day today and asked me to bring you the message. We're on our second mile marker for this journey to hope. And today we're going to talk a little bit about self-esteem. A lot of people in the world today, they base their personal value on things that really don't matter. If you think about the millions of dollars that people in this country alone spend on things like cosmetic surgery or makeup or clothes, or designer clothes, shoes, cars, things like that. Or perhaps we measure our self-worth by things like our jobs, the role that we play in our accomplishments. Maybe their grades, for students in school. I remember when I was in college, there was a teacher I went to, and I says, "I cannot believe I got this grade. I really, really need to do some makeup. I wanted to get straight A's so bad. I'm like, I really need to make up this grade." And the teacher looks at me and says, "Dude, it's a B+. What are you worried about?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not an A. I needed that. It was so part of my self-worth and my challenge and my goal was that I really needed an A." But sometimes grades are like that. But if we self-assess ourselves on these things, we're going to find ourselves in an uphill battle pretty much our entire life. Or maybe it's even worse. Maybe we made a decision like Stacy did and got in trouble for drug use and had to go to jail. Sometimes societies think that those situations, they're unfixable. You can't. There's no recovering from that. So sometimes we're not going to meet our goals. Sometimes we will fail. Sometimes other people will not see our worth. But fortunately, our self-esteem should not be based on what the world says. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to tell you a story about when I was in middle school. Middle school was rough. I mean, it is rough. For those of you that have middle schoolers or have students about to go into middle school, I don't want to scare you, but that's a tough time. It's really tough because there's constantly people that are trying to either make themselves look better by tearing you down or just feel a certain kind of gratification and power by bullying you. I was bullied a lot in middle school. No surprise, right? But what my stepdad, he was the lowest rank you can possibly be in the military, and he had 4 boys and 1 on the way. So we were so poor. I mean, we were so poor. I have a lot of poor jokes I could tell you right now, but I don't have time. But we were so poor that one thing that we never got to enjoy or experience was anything with a brand name on it. Not even the cereal we ate was brand name cereal. It was just never. It included the clothes we wore. And I used to get picked on all the time by the clothes I wore. In fact, my brothers and I, we would always even kind of joke about the fact that we were so poor, that the shoes that we wore, we called them Bobos. Okay? They were Bobo shoes. In fact, we actually had a song for it. It was, "Bobos, they make your feet feel fine. Bobos, they cost $1.99. I mean, we got our shoes from the grocery store. I mean, that's how poor we were. Well, right around the time I was in middle school, Converse had come out with this brand new shoe. It was called Converse Weapons, and they were really unique shoes because this was the first time ever that a shoe company had released a shoe that was in the color schemes of the professional basketball teams that were playing at the time. Especially the best ones. So if you were like a Chicago Bulls fan, they had like a red one, red and white and black, and if you were a Celtics fan, it was green green and white. And I was a huge Celtics fan, and I really, really, really wanted these shoes. The problem is my stepdad, my dad, he had a 3-digit rule. If the shoes cost more than 3 digits, you weren't getting them. Okay? Like $9.99, oh yeah, we'll buy those. $10, no way, that's 4 digits. You can't, no. And Converse weapons at the time started at like $80. Now, in 1980s, that's really not comparable today. Pairs of shoes these days cost over $200, right? But $80, and I was just like, it might as well be $1 million. I would never be able to afford these Converse. But I wanted these so bad. And in fact, just to give you a quick look at what I'm talking about, check out this commercial from the 80s where the basketball players are advertising these new shoes.
The Converse weapon, that's the shoe that's meant to do what he was born to do.
Maybe so, but that's not all. They let Isaiah play like he's 10 feet tall.
For the kind of moves that never fail, the weapon's the choice of Kevin McHale.
The same is true for Mark McGuire. When I wear weapons, I'm on fire. Well, what can the weapons do for King? Well, I can do just about anything.
You already know what you did for me.
What?
I walked away with the MVP.
The Converse weapon, the #1 weapon in the NBA.
I see that commercial and I ask myself, was everything corny in the 80s? Everything? Yes, they were. Good answer, right? So I wanted these shoes so bad. Well, it came to the time that I was growing. My feet and my ears grew 3 times faster than the rest of my body. I was wearing size 13 by like 6th grade, I'm telling you. And so since I was the oldest, there was no hand-me-downs. I was ripping through my shoes so fast. And my dad finally says, hey, we're going to go get you some new shoes. I'm like, all right, let's go to Kmart and stuff. And so we get in the car, and it's just me and him, and we go and we pass the Kmart. I'm like, oops, he made a mistake. We got to turn around. And he kept going, and then I was like, oh, maybe he's going to the base exchange, which is kind of like the commissary for the military base, and he didn't go that way either. And I'm like, where is he going? And I said, Dad, where are you going? He says, we're going to the mall. And I'm like, the mall? To buy shoes? He goes, yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't care. I mean, walking in the mall was a treat for us, right? So we're going to the mall to buy shoes. And all I could think about is, you already know what they did for me. I walked away with the MVP. I'm thinking, this is going to be awesome. He knows how bad I want these Converse and stuff. And so we go to the mall. And you guys know when you go like to the athletic shoe store in the mall, right? They have the whole wall with just one shoe on it, right? And so that way you can take that shoe, try it on, and then give it to the salesperson. They go get you the other ones, so the kid no way will steal it. And I remember walking in and seeing the display, Converse weapons, and right there, and I just walk up to them, and I'm just staring at them. And guess what my dad did that day? No, he didn't buy the weapons. They were $80. We kept walking and walking and walking, and all the way down here at the very end on the bottom, he picked up a shoe, which was a Converse shoe, but it was like last year's line. And it was all one color. And he said, $35? I'm like, Dad, they don't have shoes for $9.99 here. And he's like, all right. And he bought me those shoes. He says, I'm tired of your shoes ripping and tired of you wearing it. So I got a pair of Converse shoes. And it was the greatest day of my life. My self-esteem went through the roof. I could not wait to go to school the next day. I mean, I was so sure. Me walking in, I was kind of doing a little strut and everything, walking in. I'm pretty sure there was theme music like, bing, chicka, bing, 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 bing. Tony's got new shoes. I mean, it's like it was so amazing. I was so excited that I had these new shoes. And so I'm walking, I'm sure there's just like spotlights on them, and as I'm walking in, because I finally got name brand shoes. And you know how like when you sit at your desk, right? You sit at your desk and you put your feet under your chair and you right on your desk like that. No, not me. I'm like people had to walk over my brand new Converse shoes in order to get to their desk, right? So I was just so excited at these new shoes. And like I said, I felt so good about myself that I finally had, for the first time ever, a name brand shoe. My friend saw me and he's like, bro, you got Converse. I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, oh man, he's giving me hugs and everything. Middle school, 6th graders hugging, not kind of weird. But so I was just so excited. I got these new shoes, and again, I felt like top of the world until second period, gym. And And I walked in, and there was this one guy, man, he just was on my back all the time, always picking on me. And he says, I'll never forget it. And this really happened, I swear. I'll never forget, he looks at me and he says, oh, you think you're all cool now because you got new shoes? Bro, those aren't even weapons. That's last year's line. And just as fast as my self-esteem went up, it went down in a matter of seconds. And next thing you know, the thing that I thought was going to give me the greatest self-esteem and make me somebody different and make me somebody better was gone like that. So self-esteem can simply be influenced by things that we have, but it can also, if that's what we're going to put our hope in, we're going to realize very quickly that those things also can take our self-esteem away. So today we heard the story, thank you Holly for reading it, about the public entry of Christ into Jerusalem. Now I know what you're thinking. Are we in a time warp? Is it Palm Sunday already? No, we'll get to there. But I was so excited when I found out this was the text that I was asked to preach on today. Because in case you know church life, right? Palm Sunday, Easter, they don't let the youth minister speak on those Sundays. Okay, that's top tier right there. I mean, they're bringing in bishops for this stuff. I mean, this is like, the youth minister don't preach on Palm Sunday. And I love this passage so much because there's so much amazing information in these verses. And I was just so excited because I want to be able to talk about it today and just kind of share what God has kind of put on my heart. There's two things before we dive into the scripture I want you to see. We just heard that read, and I gleaned two things right from the top. First thing is Jesus is basically saying, I am not afraid. Jesus was showing that he was not afraid of the power and then of the malice of his enemies in Jerusalem. Okay? He didn't have to sneak in incognito. They didn't have to send spies out to find him. He walks in and says, this is how I'm coming in, and they don't have to be like, where's Jesus? Boom! Here I am, right here. And this bravery really kind of helped the disciples who are already very timid about the idea of going in, knowing that they had enemies in Jerusalem. And so the second thing is that he not only comes in publicly, but he comes in cheerfully. I mean, he knows what's ahead of him. Maybe he's gripping the rope a little tight on that colt because he knows what's coming in 4 or 5 days, but he comes in with a spirit of joy. He comes in waving and smiling. You can just imagine when you see them on a parade and how happy they are. But I like to think of it more as this. It's kind of like he's saying, imagine we send an army in on the battlefield, but we tell them, hey, somebody from the future came and told us we're going to win this battle. So when you go into the battlefield knowing you're already going to win, you don't come in and be like, uh-oh, we got to go fight. We're going in like, bring it on. We are guaranteed victory. Just as Jesus is already guaranteed victory. He knows the trial's coming. But he is already confident because he knows the outcome. He's going to be triumphed. That's why they call it the triumphal entry. So let's take this passage again. We're gonna take apart two things. First, the outside, what we see on the outside of this entry, but also what's going on the inside. So the first thing is that the outside of this triumphal march was very modest. All right? It says in verse 1, 2, and 3, as they approached Jerusalem, they came to Bethpage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent two of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter, you'll find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here, and if anyone asks you, why are you doing this, tell them the Lord needs it, and we'll send it back here shortly. So he rides upon a colt, which probably looked pretty disgraceful. Okay? The Greek word for colt here is polon, which means, it might indicate that it was a young donkey because it's used in other places. So it's a young donkey. Now donkeys, they're pretty stubborn as it is. Can you imagine a teenage donkey? Right? What, teenagers aren't stubborn, are they? So riding a colt does not promote Jesus. Men don't ride colts. Children might ride colts, Luggage might ride on the back of colts. Maybe colts pull wagons or carts, but certainly not the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Verse 4, 5, and 6 is why they found the colt outside the street, tied at a doorway. They untied it. Some people standing asked, "What are you doing untying that colt?" And they answered as Jesus had told them to, and the people let him go. So he goes in and he borrows this colt. Now, when I was kind of preparing for this message, I was reading some commentaries, and the writer of the commentary kind of reminded me of something. Jesus borrows things a lot, right? I mean, think about it. He preached in a borrowed boat, right? He had Passover in a borrowed room. He was buried in a borrowed tomb, and here he is borrowing a colt. I think there's a thing here that we can glean from this as brothers and sisters in Christ, that it's really okay, since we're living together, to be able to share our stuff with one another. How many of you guys were at the Valentine's banquet on Sunday? You were able to come out to that. Wasn't the place decorated beautifully? It was. It was so beautiful. Well, do you know that all of those decorations were borrowed from Kathy Kate? She gave that as a gift to the place and made it look beautiful. In fact, not only did she let us borrow it, she actually helped decorate some of it. And the flowers in it, it's just gorgeous. So there's an example for us. It's okay, I think, to borrow from one another, especially as Christians. And then the other thing is that the colt, we read earlier that it wasn't decorated. I think they said that they threw their cloaks on top of it. So no golden ropes and reins, no saddle, no wonderful robes hanging over the colt, no train. No, it was he sat on top of some